Moldova is a small country located in Eastern Europe, bordered by Romania and Ukraine. They speak a dialect of Romanian that has some Russian words mixed in as well. Even though they are an ex Soviet country, they share more of their customs and traditions with Romania than they do with Russia. Moldova's score in the category of individualism versus collectivism was 27, which is low, so they lean more toward collectivism. Friend groups in Moldova are very close knit, long lasting, and deeply loyal. Maintaining a social relationship is very important, and once someone is accepted into a social circle, they are bonded for life. Moldova is a high context culture. They have a lot of social rules that everyone seems to know and follow. For example, if you needed to borrow something from someone, you couldn't just go and borrow it. You'd have to make time to have conversation over tea, or you'll seem rude and ungrateful. Moldova's score in the category of uncertainty avoidance was 95, which is high. They don't like it when someone does something outside of the norm. It's understandable, especially for the older generations, given their history. They were independent, then they were part of the Soviet Union and communism, then they were independent again, but they were left to pick up the pieces after the dissolution. I think their Soviet past also contributes to their high power distance score, which is 90. There was a very strict social order during the Soviet rule, and common people learned quickly not to question authority. Even after they gained their independence, that influence lingered. Moldova is a very masculine society. Many women do pursue a higher education, but they are expected to be married and settled by the time they reach 24. Once they are married, they're expected to maintain the household, raise the children while the men work. Moldovan culture is much more male dominated than the United States, and women have more restrictions and less opportunities than men do. But their culture is also more community focused than the United States, so that is a good thing. The culture differences in the city wouldn't cause too much of a shock, but the villages outside of the cities are very different. Many don't have running water, so they get their water from a community well, and they still use outhouses in some places. The biggest culture shock overall would be the language barrier. I can speak and understand basic Romanian, but their dialect is much different. They pronounce their words differently, slurring sounds together in a different way, and they put emphasis on different parts of the words than they do in regular Romanian. There is also a fair amount of Russian words that are mixed in. For example, the Romanian word for waterfall is cascada, but in Moldova they use the Russian word for waterfall instead, which is vodopad. Those are two very different words. So if two Moldovans are having a conversation about a waterfall, it would be difficult to figure out what they're talking about if you aren't also familiar with Russian. It could be very easy to get lost and feel unable to participate in the conversation. I think the biggest way to avoid anxiety related to culture shock is to educate yourself and be aware of what you may experience when you go. You should also be forgiving of yourself and not be afraid to ask what or why so you can adjust accordingly. You can't just dig in your heels and expect everyone around you to cater to you the whole time. You'll have a much better experience if you immerse yourself and truly appreciate the differences. One unique tradition in Moldova is the celebration of Marțișor, which takes place on March 1st and is a celebration of the beginning of spring. They make little woven objects made of red and white string to wear for the day and to give as gifts to friends and loved ones. One big nonverbal behavior I would have to pay attention to is that they believe in the evil eye. They believe that someone can transfer bad energy to you through giving you an intentional dirty look, almost like giving you a curse. Most Moldovans wear a bracelet made of red string to ward against the evil eye. I tend to zone out quite a bit, and my resting face doesn't normally have a pleasant expression, so this is something I would have to be hyper aware of. I wouldn't want to unintentionally make someone feel like I'm trying to send them bad energy. Another behavior I'd have to be conscious of is that I eat very fast, especially if I like the food. In the United States, no one really cares how fast or slowly you eat, but generally if you eat something super fast, then it's a sign you enjoyed it. Hospitality is very important in Moldova. When a Moldovan hosts a gathering, it is generally spent around a table of food. So if you don't eat the entire time the food is out, the host assumes you don't like the food. In my case, if I eat a bunch of food too quickly, then the host sees me sitting there and not eating. It can cause offense and make them feel like they're not a good host and make them think that I don't like the food, which may not be the case, but that could be the perception. Avoiding giving people the evil eye, avoiding wolfing down my food too quickly, and familiarizing myself with local customs would help to make my transition a lot easier. Thank you.